the problem of impunity, the problem of lawlessness, beginning from the highest office in the land. So I think that's it and nothing else. I mean, that shows you, first of all, because many people keep asking, are these actions sanctioned by General Museveni? Are they sanctioned? Is he aware? But I mean, I'm sure he has seen the outcry, he has seen the sense of anger in the country, and then he chooses to come out to mock the country with this kind of talk. So that is the most unfortunate thing. But I think what we need to do as Ugandans is to realize that we are on our own, and that's what we've been telling the people all the time, that we are on our own, and that General Museveni is aware of whatever is happening, and sanctions all these kind of conduct. I think the only difference between him and his son is that whereas his son does his actions and goes on Twitter, talks about them, and is very happy, he relishes the moment. General Museveni has been doing these things, but not coming out to admit them or to praise himself about them, and that is a hypocrisy that you see. I mean, just go back and read the cases of Dr. Besigye, 2006, the Supreme Court decision. Look at 2001, and you can see a pattern of torture, how people were treated. A pattern of abductions. Even abductions were happening at that time. So many people tortured in different parts of the country. So it is the official policy. The only difference is that General Museveni has not been admitting it as official policy. His son is now doing that.
Okay, thank you, DL. Relatedly, he is not the only one who found time to issue a statement or a tweet of that kind. Your own party, the National Unity Platform, also did. In your communique, a letter to some of the Ankole elders, you said, I'll just take the reference, saying, tribal sectarian talk and actions by General Museveni's son, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, with the potential of setting our country on fire. So, of course, Muhoozi makes these references to teaching Eddie Mutwe, Lunyankole, and all those things he said. I saw a cartoon by my colleague Spire saying that he's really funding a genocide in the country. How serious do you, being a Munyankole, for instance, in the National Unity Platform, the same party that is being targeted, how much do you think these actions put us as a country at risk at this point in time?
Yeah, for the record, well, I come from Western Uganda, which is a large part of that, and but I'm a Munyoro originally, although I grew up from Ankole. And I will tell you that, of course, that does not matter a lot. But what I want to say is that this is a very, 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 very serious situation. It's very serious because 90% of our people who have been abducted are treated in this manner. This language is used to them. People come telling you that, they are tortured and they are being told such things like, do you think you'll ever rule the country? This country has its owners. And, almost all these young men who are taken in are subjected to this tribal hate and sometimes religious hate when they are Muslims, if they are Muslims. And if you talk to them, they tell you that, what happens in those torture chambers, they're always being asked who you are, to think that you can lead the country, call the Kabaka to save you, all sorts of things, really, tribal hate. And I think in the letter that our president wrote a few days ago, which he released today, he was really impressing it upon these elders in Ankole and Chigezi sub-regions that, look, our country is on a very, very bad trajectory. And that, and as he has mentioned in the letter, the catastrophes, the greatest catastrophes that have happened in human history did not start with people killing each other or gas chambers or whatever. They started with this kind of talk. A CDF who heads the military of a country comes up to use this kind of language. So what do you expect his juniors to do? Because the juniors are listening when he speaks this. At some point, there was this video of a soldier. Nobody knows how it leaked out of those places. A soldier who was really speaking to these other UPDF soldiers, telling them that, I became this by Munyankole, I became this by Munyankole. And so you can see that we are on a very, very dangerous trajectory. What pains, of course, is that then you see Genome 7 coming out grandstanding to say that, we don't believe in politics of hate. We don't believe in, politics of identity. And yet it is almost the official policy of his government. I mean, there have been reports, the Equal Opportunities Commission, and so many other reports showing these disparities, inequalities in our society, injustices, etc., etc. But now you find someone at the level of a CDF relishing this, talking directly about it, praising it. So, and I'll tell you this again. I speak as someone from NUP who has listened to the anger with which these victims speak. And I'll tell you that many times it's the leaders, beginning with our president, I think, who have been restraining them a lot. Because these guys come and they are very, very angry. They just want to do the worst. And then it is the role of leadership to try and, try to say we are one country. We are, despite all these things, these crimes are being committed by a certain group of people who want to bring hatred on an entire group and all that kind of thing. And you have to do a lot of explaining. So the other day, I mean, when this guy said that he was teaching Eddie Mutwelu Nyankole, people started asking, so should we also start teaching these people Luganda? So when you hear those kinds of narratives building up in a country, it is a cause for concern for all of us. And I think what our president has done is to impress it on these elders within Ankole that, look, disassociate yourselves from this madness, first of all. Number two, try to reach out. Even if those you reach out to do not listen, you will have exercised your moral obligation. Nobody will say that you kept quiet when our country came to this point, because you can clearly see the trajectory. It has been actions. There has been a lot of injustice. There has been a lot of pain. You've seen the land grabbing. You've seen the social injustices. You've seen all these things. But now it has moved from these actions, which are gross and grave. I mean, people have been talking about the returning officers of the Electoral Commission and how all of them come from the same place. They've been talking about the DPCs and all that. But now you see somebody relishing that, praising that kind of thing. You're torturing someone. Someone is in a basement, and you have the audacity to come out and say, I'm teaching him Lunyankole. So for me, I think it is a very, very serious moment for our country. And what disappoints me so much is to see most of these religious leaders quiet at such a point when you'd expect them to be speaking out. I am very, very glad that the Katikkiro of Uganda came out and condemned that in the strongest terms possible. You would expect all moral leaders in this country to be speaking about this at this point and calling upon the nation to condemn this in the strongest terms possible.
Okay, DL, still sticking with you. There's something that is quite stood out for me. Throughout the time Muskele Rugaba was tweeting, he made references to things like he is using Eddie Mutwe to prepare for his fight with Bobby Wine. He said things like Eddie Mutwe will now have to start respecting Museveni. He seemed not to mention that Eddie Mutwe committed a crime. And I'm not saying that it would be any justification if indeed they had a crime against him, even if it was actually proved that he committed a crime. That's not the way to treat anyone. But then, when he's taken to court, he is charged with robbery. I think aggravated robbery. The same charge that Achileo, is that how they pronounce the name? I hope I'm getting it right, was charged with earlier this year, and other people. Recently, there's even a group of people who are protesting against ECOP, just students, who are charged with aggravated robbery. So how did this move that fast? That he is now the one who is being accused of robbery. Do we know the facts of that robbery? What does the charge sheet and all these things? What did you derive from them?
Well, first of all, I want to say that Eddie Mutwe told us, first of all, that he was forced to kneel down and, swear allegiance to Genome 7 and his son. He was forced to, denounce on gunpoint, by the way. He was forced to denounce Bobby Wine and the National Unity Platform and all these things. You know, it's horrific to imagine what these guys do to people, to human beings. So, and of course, like our president indicated, while all this was happening, they had speakers when they were torturing him, giving him what you saw what what Museveni's son called Runyankole lesson. So every torture session, when it would start, they would put the volume at highest peak, put a loud music, so that the people around the area would not hear what was going on. Because, like I said, he said this was a home, maybe with neighborhoods and all that. So these guys do not want some people in the neighborhood to hear. They may think maybe there's a party going on here. They're just listening to music. There's fun, but while you listen to music, somebody is being tortured to near death. Now, about the charges, of course, in the absence of the court martial, because previously it was a military court which was playing this role, which they are trying to reinstate. Now, the new charge they have found is aggravated robbery. The reason why they do it aggravated is because they don't want you to go to a magistrate where you can apply orally for bail and get bail and go away. They are now using aggravated robbery. And just yesterday, there were other young, NUP supporters who were arraigned before the court in Masaka and charged with aggravated robbery. You can imagine these are people who were picked up from a football match, which had been organized by some of the leaders of NUP, a football match. I'm sure some of you saw on the weekend when police came and blocked this event. And so they picked these 12 young people and charged them with aggravated robbery. But what are the facts? They say that they stole 100,000 shillings and a mobile phone. That is what is on the charge sheet. But the charge is aggravated robbery, which means that you used a deadly weapon, which can even give you a death sentence. So even the Edimutwes, for example, if you look at the facts of that case, there was an event where our president went in Masaka, where there was a burial for someone called Pascali, who had been living in the UK. He passed on, and he was not our president, he was a friend and all that. They went for that. Reaching there was, I don't even want to call it a scuffle, because there were some politicians who had prepared goons to raise some pictures against our president there and all that. And before long after the event, which ended and everybody came back, some politicians again approached these people, I think these journalists, and you saw the journalists claiming they had been beaten and all that. No robbery was mentioned or anything like that. No use of deadly weapons was used. At the time, they said they had damaged, I think, some cameras and all that. And this year begins. Then there is Achileo, I think, was the first one to be picked up, abducted, kept for several days, charged with aggravated robbery. When our legal team went there, they found the facts had been changed to ensure that they make this case aggravated. That there were knives, there was this, there was that. Wakabi Grace, one of the security people for our president, again, Wakabi Smart Grace, was never in Masaka at all. He was never there. He was picked up, taken, charged with the same thing. So this is exactly what the military court was doing, because the military court, that's the role it was playing. You remember what happened in Kalangala? They picked the entire security team of our president, went and claimed that these people had, I think, 4 bullets and some magazines. But you remember they were picked up, I think, on the 30th of December. The charge sheet read that they committed this offense on the 3rd of January. But because it was a military court, it just takes orders. It doesn't follow any law. It doesn't follow any rules. It went like that. So right now, it's very unfortunate that the judiciary is being used to play this role. You see the way the court in Entebbe is being used to play a certain role. Everybody who allegedly insults General Museveni or his family or whatever is taken to that court and remanded. No bail. What they are telling people is, plead guilty, we give you your 6 years, we give you your 4 years, and you go. If you don't do that, there will be no bail, there will be no trial, or the trial will take its time, and that kind of thing. So it's unfortunate that now the court in Masaka is being used to play this role. That when these people have been, I mean, Achileo, Gaddafi, added to that similar case, aggravated robbery. So I think we need to understand that now aggravated robbery is being used. And I mean, you've seen even the other day when Musili was picked up, the charge was aggravated robbery. That's what they're trying to do to everybody, because they know that the bail application in the High Court is quite lengthy, and they're trying to make it difficult for these people to get out under those circumstances.
Okay, dear, let me ask you a final question for this round. I made reference earlier to the 70s and a report by the National Commission of the Jurists about Idi Amin's atrocities. If you read that report, you'll find that most of the accusations against torture were being denied by Amin. So when you read the part where there was the abduction of Benedicto Chiwanuka, the State Research Bureau came out and said he was abducted by other people. In fact, they executed 2 people after a trial by the court martial for the abduction of Benedicto Chiwanuka. So what I'm saying is torture is a very abhorrent thing that normally even someone like Idi Amin, who all evidence will point to, will come out and say, it's not me. Yet we have before us a person who apparently wants to be the president of Uganda, the person who hates the army, and it seems like he's owning up to torture in this day and age. So politically speaking, you know the politics better than any of us on this space, I believe. What do you believe is Muhoozi's end game? What is he driving at with this kind of what I think is callousness? But maybe there is method to the madness. What do you think is driving towards?
I think he gave you what he believes in some time back. He came out clearly and said he does not believe in democracy. He said he does not believe in the rule of law. You remember that? He said, what is democracy? What is the rule of law? So he does not believe in that, and he has given you a clear indication. What pains me is to see some, I just even lose, I don't know what word is used to describe such people. You use some individuals supporting this individual, and really completely detached from the reality of where the country is heading, because it is unprecedented. I mean, even Hitler denied most of the crimes he committed, and the people under him were denying the crimes, and they were trying to find justification to explain them, and all that and all that. But you have somebody who is gleefully talking about torture as if it's something normal, as if it is something to jubilate about, as if it is something to, I mean, I don't think in history there has been, I mean, maybe there are some, but for somebody to come out and say, yes, I have him, I'm torturing him, and he asks a question, what can you do? So for me, I think that, and like I said, really, that the apple does not fall far from the tree. General Museveni has given you indications before that he came through military means. He cannot be taken away by mere ballot paper. You have seen how militarized all elections have been, all processes that we've had, and all that. So at the core, these are not people who believe in democratic processes. These are not people who think they need the support of the people. But like I said, for the father, he tries to put a facade of democracy. He says, okay, let there be an election. I will arrest these people. I will do what? I will do all sorts of things. But I will put a facade and, and that kind of thing. But his son is showing you that that's not anything I believe in. I don't care what public opinion is about me, as long as I have the maje, as they call it. But I don't even think that people in the military would condone this kind of behavior. And I'm sure they are as shocked as everybody else, majority of them. Of course, not all of them, but I think majority of them are as shocked as every other citizen of this country about these kinds of actions. So for me, to really answer your question directly, I don't think General Museveni's son looks at his political path as that should, speak to the population, speak to their sentiments, maybe try to be political and all that kind of thing. His only and main interest is a firm hold control on the military, and he believes that that is the pathway to power. And I can tell you that I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think that will work. I don't, and the international community, the people of Uganda, and everybody should not allow that, because everybody knows where we would be if that was to be the case.
Okay, DL, you had said you would leave after an hour. Is that still the same?
Yes, please. I have another engagement.
Okay, so I think
Sorry.
we are going to, unless Agatha has a question for you, I think I can stay with Pauline and then bring in the audience. Agatha Ospire, do you have a question for DL?
No. I have a question for Pauline. I hadn't realized that Rubongwe is about to leave, but I would imagine there could be someone in the audience that wants to ask a question to him. So maybe you first ask if there's anyone before he leaves.
Yeah, I see there's a number of people who have asked for the microphone. Now it's hard to tell who has a question for DL. If anyone has a question for DL, just put your hand up of those who have asked for the microphone so that I specifically give you that. As we get that person, I want to say at this point that we wrote to the Uganda police. I personally reached out to the Uganda police spokesperson for this engagement, and he told us that he is not available. I asked him to delegate someone, if he can, through his office, and that other message went unresponded to. I also asked who I know now, who I've learned now is the former deputy spokesperson of the army, Akiki Deo, to join us on this discourse. And he too said he will not be available, but then he said he no longer speaks for the army. But given that he is now actually working with the CDF, I thought he would have been a better person to join, even perhaps more than the army spokesperson. But yes, just so you know, we tried to bring a person who would speak for the other side, if there is such a thing. Spy, you have something to say?
Yeah, just to ask Rubongoya if they have an idea of the total of the number of people who have been kidnapped, like Eddie Mutwe, who are still in detention. Do they have an idea of the total number?
That, and then the question from Sarah. I think you should, no, answer that, and then we ask the one from Sarah so that we don't lose it out. Yes, dear.
Yeah, so with the statistics I have, of course, they keep changing every day because new people are abducted, others are taken in. So the number of supporters who were abducted between 2019 and 2021, we have 2,134 persons. Majority of them are out now, but out of those, 18 who are very well known are still missing, including Damlila, Chibalama, and others that are the list that you know of 18 missing persons. Number of those abducted after the election up to now, 143. Number of those recently abducted and still missing. Previously there were 6 and those include Eddie Mutwe and Chagulanyi Najib, who I talked about. So now there are 4 who are missing out of these who were recently abducted, and that is Shakul Sentongo, Sebude Kasim, Palanyi Michael, aka Infantry, and this other comrade here. So these are the 4 that we are still looking for as of today. Number of those arrested since 2021, and of course, all of you, I believe, on this space know the difference between an abduction and an arrest. Those are 272. And yeah, so that's the list that I have. But like I said, these statistics keep changing because new people get abducted, others get released, and that kind of thing. So our human rights team is always working hard to, update the list. And there are others, of course, who are not directly linked with NUP, but other victims. Some of these TikTokers who are picked up from different parts of the country, who we know about as a party, who do not even identify with NUP, but somebody has said something, they abducted and taken. Here I see we have Sengonzi David, Taiwa Julius, Gordon Muzale, Isaiah Sekajiri, Nabugodi Emmanuel, and others. All these abducted between September and December 2024. There's Madubala and others. So this is the picture I can paint for now.
Okay, Sarah, unmute your microphone and ask your question before DL leaves.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Perfect. Given the nature of torture that our brother Edmutwe went through, apart from the legal approach and the human rights approach, is there a way of including the medical approach and maybe involving medical personnel, Uganda Medical Association and other groups, mental health, also from a mental health approach, to ensure that Edmutwe is released? I mean, having looked at the side effects of what he went through, which I've shared on my timeline, alongside the studies that have been made on extensively by Amnesty International and different research centers, it is very clear that Eddie Mutwe needs immediate health, medical attention. So I was just wondering, is there an approach, like as a group, as a registered party? I mean, individually, there's very little we can do, but I'm pretty sure that an organized party could possibly appeal to some of these, or wondering if the party could appeal to some of these organizations to also or bring that to the table to ensure that Eddie Mutwe is released and gets the medical attention that he needs. Thank you.
Okay, DL, take that and then you'll have done us the best you could.
Maybe just one last question for him. What is the NUP party? And I'm not saying this is supposed to be solely on the party, but what are they doing? So we've seen that legal measures are not working. We've seen the likes of Yasin Machete have been in jail for 4 years and no legal process is yielding anything. When you look at now Ed Mutwe, it's well, like the judges are remanding a visibly tortured person and sending them to jail instead of hospital. And mostly these are targeted because of being members of the National Unity Platform. What is the NUP? Is there any plan B or C? Is there anything else you guys are planning to do about it? Are there any options? Yeah, thanks.
Hasn't it dropped?
I see he's on as a listener, so maybe someone bring him back in as
Yes,
a speaker.
I have sent, DL, I've sent you an invitation to speak. If you're here, just accept. Yeah, I see he's here. Okay. DL, you could ask for the mic as well, but I've sent you an invitation. Perfect, loud and clear.
Yes, please. Sorry, my network had broken down. So, yes, first of all, as a party, we have different things we do for these torture victims, and I want to thank our partners like ACTV for the great work done in the past. It's a party which should be focused on. You find that we spend a lot of money on medical care. We spend a lot on getting counselors and psychosocial support for these torture victims. And of course, welfare takes a big portion of that and all that. But yeah, we have different things we do in terms. It's even half as enough of what we should be doing because the toll is too big. There's so many comrades who have gone into depression, many who are traumatized, many who have gotten different conditions as a result of this. You can imagine people have lost limbs and what they have to go through. You can imagine those who have lost loved ones in the process and all that. So we try to do different things. You've asked about Uganda Medical Association. Yes, we engage with them every once in a while. But as you know the situation even of these organizations, they're also dealing with their own challenges. Same thing with Uganda Law Society, which we try to engage every once in a while. And you've seen them bring different actions on some of these matters.
we believe that these associations can do much more, except of course the environment under which they operate. So yeah, after the last election, we had different sessions, some for women who had been sexually assaulted, others for different people, really to try and cancel these people. There are these comrades who spent a lot of time in prison, and every time you talk to them, you can see the trauma they are still going through and the challenges and all that. So we do our best as a party, but I cannot say that it is enough.
Okay, and Agatha's question, that answered it as well. Agatha, can you hear me? Seems like DL's microphone is off now. I dropped off. Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Did he address your question?
So, I don't think so, but
Agatha, please ask your question again.
no, I was asking that seeing as no legal means are working, as
Yeah.
regards your supporters, who are actually most of them are in the predicament they're in because of supporting NUP. Is there any other option? Are there any other plans you have to do something to rescue them, or you know, what's the plan? Or have you run out of any options of what to do?
Well, that's a very challenging question, but I think that question is for all of us. Because, I mean, today it is happening to NUP supporters. Like I said earlier previously, it has happened to FDC supporters. It has happened to people who do not even belong to different to political parties. People are abducted because, I mean, you've seen what has happened to Muslims and all that. So I think our resort has been to the population, to the people of Uganda. We've been talking about, I mean, because we all know, we can all agree that this situation can only come to an end when the thugs in power are removed from power, because they just believe that they have to abuse power and with impunity and all that. And I mean, when you listen to the words that these, abductors tell these people, you can see that for them, they treat this country as some sort of empire, which they must protect at all costs, and so I think, I mean, when I say they must protect, it's not that they protect and give security, but they own, that they must own an empire. It's an empire of theirs, which they don't think anybody should have a right to even have a claim on, or whatever. So I think the result is really to the people of Uganda. Because we've used legal means, of course, domestically and internationally. We've appealed to the international community to impose sanctions on some of these violators of human rights. We have done all that. But ultimately, the solution will lie with the people of Uganda saying enough is enough.
I think the people of Uganda might need leadership from you guys. Are the biggest opposition party, but also, like I said, and it's not that I started by saying I'm not saying this lies solely on you guys. We have also seen that many Ugandans are condemning it. Maybe some doing what they can, but I am thinking that they might look up to you, the NUP, for ideas, for leadership. So yeah,
And I
that's
think
why I asked.
we've tried to, first of all, speak to the people, communicate to the people. But Agatha and everybody who is listening in to us, I hope and I know that all of us understand the context under which we operate. The context in which, for example, the past attempts to protest have been met with so much brutality. And so, as a leadership, what we've been doing is to call upon people to protest in different ways. I'll tell you that there are different actions we've been discussing, but every time we sit to discuss, for example, the different options, we must be mindful of the context. November 18th and 19th are still fresh in the minds of the people of Uganda, where people were largely peaceful. Many people were peaceful. Many people were just going about their businesses. and before long they were shot dead on the streets. Of course, the numbers, the regime came out to talk about few people, but if you talk to people at Mulago receiving bodies, or the lawyers who were documenting what was going on, they will tell you the massacre that the regime committed against the people of Uganda and all that. So what I'll say is that in some instances, one of the challenges has been the context. It's not that we've not wanted to call for certain actions immediately and all that, but you have to be strategic. You have to think a lot. You have to, first of all, encourage the people themselves to take the initiative. But for the actions that because I hear many people saying, let, for example, the president of NUP be on the front line. And yes, he has been on a number of occasions. And immediately after elections, he led a team of people. They went to Kampala Road and they were protesting. And he normally jokes about it, how people were standing on the balconies of these shops, taking pictures and saying "Muturwani dide, Muturwani dide," and all that kind of thing. And why are these people doing that? Why are they staying away? Why are they, staying in their shops and waving and all that? It's largely because of the fear, the intimidation that has been imposed. I mean, we can take an example of Kenya. You saw how people came on the streets in large numbers until the regime in Kenya turned so violent, started killing people. But the regime in Uganda, even if you're just 3 or 4 protesters coming out to protest, you see the violence with which they handle you. But is this a picture of pessimism? Certainly not. I believe that the actions, for example, of Museveni's son and all these things are actually leading us to a point where people will say, we don't care about anything anymore. Because all we need is a critical mass of people, and that's what we've been preaching, to say that the people of Uganda need to understand that if they organize, if we organize, if we mobilize, if we agitate and come out together and say, no matter what, we are now here, we are coming, then it will be game over for the dictator and his son and all these other people who are oppressing us.
Okay, I'm going to thank you, DL, for giving us your time, and also say that I invited you only yesterday, very, very short notice, but we're glad that you joined us on the discourse. We actually intended to have this discourse this time only, mostly with the security people, to tell us what the hell is going on. But given that we hit brick walls with each of them, as I said earlier, we then realized you had gone to see Eddie Mutwe, and we thought we can then get the other side of the story. Now, I'm going to revert to Pauline, who is from the Uganda Human Rights Commission, the commission that issued an order asking that Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the Chief of Defense Forces, release Eddie Mutwe. And for some reason, the letter was issued the day after he was indeed released. Yes, Pauline is the Director of Complaints, Investigations and Legal Services at Uganda Human Rights Commission. So she's the only panelist we have now. And Agatha, you had a question for her. Can we start with that?
Yes. So earlier you asked her about, is that enough what they've done, and I had wanted to ask her to maybe enlighten us more about the mandate. She talked about it briefly, but about the full mandate of the commission, because when they gave out that release order, it took a few days, nothing was happening. But even after this person was released from illegal detention, there's still a violation of the law and his rights that is ongoing, because you have the Human Rights Enforcement Act that says a person whose non-derogable rights have been violated, the judge shall not even entertain that case. So more than one of those non-derogable rights of Edmund, and maybe for people who do not understand that word, it means that rights are sort of absolute, that you have no you can, the state or anyone cannot deviate from them, and one of them is the right to a fair hearing, a right and freedom from torture and inhuman degradation, which Edmund was subjected to. So they are continuing to violate them. But also his right to life is is still threatened. He is unwell, he's not in a hospital, he is in prison. The person that came out and boasted about having him torturing him, that there haven't been any summons from the commission, which is one of their mandates. Nothing. So is there anything more that the commission can do? Is there anything stopping it from doing it? Thank you.
Pauline, just pick it right from there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Agatha. So the commission has several tools that that the Constitution has given it to address violations of human rights. So one of those is the continuous monitoring of the state of human rights in the country, and that's a continuous, ongoing process. Now, I know there are people who hold the view that what does that achieve? What does documentation? Because we monitor with a view to documenting and sort of analyzing how, are we progressing? Are we regressing? What is the state of human rights in the country? So there's that role, and that one is continuous. That is why you will see the commission coming out and saying, "Oh, we've received this information. We are trying to locate where this person is." That is us doing that role. Then there's the capacity to investigate complaints under Article 52(1), to initiate an investigation or to receive complaints. And really that is about having a redress mechanism, a process through which now you're seeking to find concrete evidence that can be held up in because we have quasi-judicial powers when the commission sits as a tribunal. So now you're looking for evidence that can stand in a court process, because that the decisions of the commission are appealable to the High Court. So there has to be that process, right? Fair hearing. Okay, these are allegations that have been put forward. This is the evidence that we've been able to gather. Of course, in most instances, it's the Attorney General who's the respondent in such a case. Put those to the Attorney General. Let him make a formal response. Let us have that whole due process. So that is one of the things that we are looking at in Eddie Mutwe's case. So there's the immediate. He's in illegal detention. There is a concern about for that. There's a threat, or in our view, an assessment that there's a threat to life. What do we do? That order is issued. He is now in lawful custody. Regardless of all these other legal issues, should he have been charged? Was he in a state to be charged? Because that now crosses over to the courts. And you know that we have limitations in that regard. That once a matter has gone to court, then it's in court's domain. But our investigation into the violation is ongoing, for purposes of being able to ensure that an effective remedy can be accorded. You mentioned the issue of his health. So that's one of the things that we assess when we interact with a situation like Eddie Mutwe's. So in this particular situation, the officers have seen him. The report we have is that he is receiving treatment, and that's what I mean when I say it's ongoing. You see, so that's the report we have today. Tomorrow there's actually going to be, we will have an update. Do we feel that no, this is not adequate, he needs to be moved to another facility? How are we engage the prison authorities? So there's a lot more. We use I guess you would say the stick and the carrot, but ultimately to see that justice is served, life is preserved, human dignity is maintained, and our hope is that a strong message is sent out that impunity cannot continue. And I just want to, I want to say that it requires great strength and courage to continually say and do this, but we know that it is important for all of us, as all of us as Ugandans. And so I don't know, Agatha, if I have given a clear picture of the different, avenues that are available to us to use to address the issue. So we have a complaint registered, and we are following it up to its logical conclusion.
Okay, we shall be waiting. We have seen many other complaints that have gone and investigated, nothing done. Missing people, 18 of them are still missing. Tortured people, those that are still in jail, you had me mention them. So we have people that have been in jail for 5 years now. They were under the court martial. Their cases have never taken off. And now, even after the Supreme Court made a decision regarding military courts, they have never had a day in civilian courts. And all those are human rights violations. We say that when there's a court case, you guys won't do anything. But if the human rights violations are continuing even after there's a court case, because the case of Eddie Mutwe that I mentioned, that was a human right violation, that was a violation of the law. How are we going to resolve this? So I mentioned a few of the cases that have come before you, and nothing has been done. And you have wide mandate, you have powers to do something, you have powers to summon these perpetrators of this, but they haven't. It looks more like there are people that are above the law in this country, and that's a bit scary.
So just I may not go into the detail of each specific individual case that you have cited, but I don't think it's accurate to say that we've done nothing. For example, with and the chairperson has spoken on this several times concerning the issue of the NUP missing persons, the fact that there were allegations that over 2,000 people were missing. The commission did investigations, and the confirmation that the commission came through with these investigations was 18 persons. She has given the history of how some were not willing to continue with the matter, how some had been approached, different circumstances. So I don't want to necessarily go into the nitty gritty, but just to say that each case that we receive is handled on its merits, and we appreciate the public expectation, and we welcome the criticism, because sometimes we are criticized for not doing enough or doing too little too late, but there are circumstances that relate to each individual case. And I want to assure Agatha and the listeners that the powers of the commission are exercised judiciously. And I would request that whether or not we agree with the findings or decisions of the commission, we respect that process and say, okay, the commission did investigations. These were their findings. This is their report. If someone is seeking to challenge it in a particular way or manner, we welcome that, because what we do is evidence-based, and we feel that it is important that we document and we go through the painful process of ensuring that the evidence we have is above reproach.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pauline. Now, I added someone to this space. Pauline, please mute your microphone for the meantime. Thank you. So I added someone to this call, and that is Alex Kigoye. David Lewis earlier made reference to ACTV. So Alex comes from ACTV. They've done a lot of work related to torture. So specifically for torture, we'll first put aside the case, the issue of abduction and illegal detention, and look at just torture, of course, which many times happen in those places. So, Alex, yeah, could you just give us the statistics or paint a picture for us of the relation, the correlation, if any, between election seasons like this one and torture, whether the figures go up, whether they go down? How do those figures react? How do the torture figures in Uganda react to election seasons?
Yeah, thank you so much. Regarding the issue of torture, and really, as you've talked about and all about it in your preamble, but also coming to what the other previous speakers have also talked about, that we are discussing torture, which our laws actually have made non-derogable rights. And we all understand how grievous these acts can be, how dehumanizing and barbaric these acts can be, and also looking at the effects of itself really being very grave to the individual persons, but also to their families, and also generally actually affecting us as a country. Because when you see these on TV, children watch TV, and it's, of course, research has shown that even the children just watching these should be given the utmost attention it deserves, because these are things that really shouldn't be happening, but unfortunately they are happening. And I think we need to work together to see that actually we address these kind of issues. And I really want also to thank you, Toko and Agora, at that level, that you keep on bringing this discussion to the public. Because one thing we need to understand, as also Pauline put it, that fighting for rights is a collective responsibility. No one institution can really address these issues. So you bringing these kind of conversations to people and in the public, I think you are doing a very commendable job. Coming back to your question, how do statistics play when it comes to election time? And indeed, over time, from our statistics and from where we operate from, statistics when it comes to torture issues always rise significantly during the periods of elections. And now actually this one becomes the pre-election time, the election time, and then the post-election time. Previously, we would have very limited cases post-election, but when you look at the past election, the 2021 general election, the 2016 general elections, we had a number of cases emerging in the post-election time, that there was a shooting of numbers within that period. Numbers rise significantly, and of course, when we relate to the past election, the 2021 general election, we saw a rise during the campaign time, all the way from the primaries. If you remember very well that during primaries of the NRM, there were a number of cases of brutality, of violence that really transpired during the primaries. And unfortunately, as if the trend is also speaking to that, even in this current election that is emerging. So always there is a spike of numbers of torture cases that come up during election time. We have just finished the Kawempe elections. We also saw what transpired there, cases of brutality, cases of arrests and allegations of torture in there. So this one is just speaking to even what probably we could expect during this time. Of course, as a civil society organization, we are imploring everyone responsible, including the public and the institutions that are involved, including the political parties, really to see that we have a peaceful election, a violence-free election, because of there's so many effects that emerge that result from the violence and the brutality and torture that happened during elections. Because one thing that we have seen as part of the effects, and we all know that a person that was tortured, traumatized at that level, both physically and psychologically, they lose about 5 to 10 years of their lives. So for them to be able to rebuild their lives, to address the traumas that they are going through, and some of them never recover from this. And that's why really we all at every time and opportunity that we get, we want to implore everyone really to desist from acts of torture, so that we can mitigate and prevent some of these traumatic events that happen and disorganize the communities and the people. So just to summarize your question, what happens during and during and post-election? We have seen that numbers of torture cases and brutality always spike up very significantly.
Okay, that's the sad reality. And then just in a minute before you go, what does ACTV do when people are tortured? Basically, if someone wants to report like a case of torture to you, what are the channels to follow? Just in a minute.
Yes, we have our offices, centers, our rehabilitation centers, one in Kampala, in Kanyanya. So someone can just walk in there and report a case of torture. We have our center located in northern Uganda in Gulu, where people can also walk in there in Karamoja, in Kabong district, and in Kasese district. However, someone can also just make a phone call for them to be able to reach us. And of course, this information can be found on our website, on our Twitter handles, to also be able to find more information at that level. But someone can just walk in and then say I was tortured, and then be able to receive the services. But the kind of services that we provide as an organization, we provide highly specialized medical treatment for survivors of torture and related violence. We provide mental health services, social support services, and legal aid services for people that have also experienced torture. The other key thing that we do that is very critical for people that have experienced torture is medical legal documentation. And of course, one of the things that has been always a challenge in the process of seeking justice for survivors of torture has always been evidence. as we all know that torture happens behind doors. For example, the person that has been discussed today, no one probably was there to witness this kind of torture. So what happens is to have the experts, the medical experts, the mental health experts, to do an examination and assessments for them to be able to document the kind of injuries that have this person has been able to experience, and also relate them to science, what science says, and then be able to develop a medical legal report that can be used, for example, in the Uganda Human Rights tribunals to decide on these cases, that can be used in courts to also for the judges also to decide on cases of torture. So as an organization, we do this. We do the medical legal documentation, and the survivors can utilize this information while seeking justice at that level. So as an organization, besides carrying out advocacy, we do provide those kind of services to really help survivors of torture to rebuild themselves, to overcome the trauma that they have experienced, to rebuild the hope within them and their families, and then be able, those that want to pursue justice, to enable them to pursue justice as they would wish.
Thank you, Alex. Now, I'm going to engage members of the public at this point, members of the audience at this point. We are all members of the public anyway. So I'm going to start with Brayo. Then I'll go to Joseph Bukenya. And then I'll go to Action Now in that order. So I'm going to request that in the interest of time, Pauline asked to leave, but I'm going to hold her just for 7 more minutes. Go straight to your point, ask your question, so that in case there's any directed to her, she can respond before she leaves within the 7 minutes. So let's take it in that order, starting with Brian.
Thank you. Gideon, thank you. I want to ask Pauline that when do you guys feel that like you are toothless bulldog? I mean, maybe Agatha was afraid to ask you this, but I will. Like, you ordered Mhozi and he said nothing. If Mhozi can refuse to go to parliament, which can even impeach his dad, what about you, the Human Rights Commission? I mean, when do you feel like you are the toothless bulldog? Like there is nothing you can do. And two, Eddie Mutwe is not the first person to be abducted in this time. Actually, he was not even around. But why is it that you are only coming out on Eddie Mutwe? Is it because the pressure from the people that were talking about him? When do you guys come out and defend all Ugandans? When do you guys come out and defend our rights as Ugandans? Thank you.
Thank you. That's to Pauline. Joseph Bukenya, unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you so much, the moderator plus my colleagues. I also have a question that, Pauline, I also request that you respond to the issue of the missing 18, the likes of Johnny Bosco Chibalama, because we are seeing that you are responding to only one issue, that is the issue of Eddie Mutwe. Yet all along, we have been receiving, there is evidence that there have been high cases of kidnap, torture. For example, we have the list of the missing 18. Even recently, Prime Minister of Uganda, Nabanja, came out in broad daylight and confirmed that they have Johnny Bosco Chibalama. Even General Museveni on national television, he came up and read the list of the names of those people that are missing, the likes of Damulida John. So why aren't you taking step? You are just taking step just because of the pressure.
Okay. Has it dropped? Okay, Sarah, do you have a question still? Could it be that I'm not dropped? Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you. You are on.
Mukanya just went off. Yes. So I think Pauline, you can respond to those two, and then it will be okay that you can leave. We've really held you longer than you had asked to be held to be here. Pauline, just in case you're speaking, your microphone is muted, and so we can't hear you. It's unfortunate. So let me sort that out with Pauline. But yes, Pauline is here.
Sorry, I'm here. I can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Pauline.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't get the name of the first gentleman who talked about.
It's called Brian.
Brian, about
Yes.
the commission being a toothless dog. First of all, let me just generally say that issues of torture are very emotive, and rightly so. And so I understand the depth of emotion with which some of these questions are raised. And it is my responsibility as a public servant paid by the government of Uganda to answer these questions. Brian said, that, don't we think we are a toothless dog? I think my understanding or reading of the events of the recent past confirmed to me, and I may be biased, that the commission is not a toothless dog, because the fact is that the commission issued that order, and that order was complied with. Eddie Mutwe's location is known, his condition is known. We are having a discourse in a public engagement concerning details of his condition. So maybe I am more of a positivist than others, but I do not call that toothlessness. The tools that we have given to us are within the Constitution. We all appreciate the process that brought the Constitution that we have to us. We cannot act outside of the Constitution. We would be acting as those that we hold accountable. So we are using the powers that we have, and actually, in my view, judiciously using them to ensure that there is justice, there is rule of law, that where there are violations, somebody is held accountable and there is an effective remedy given to that person. So in my view, I would not say that we are a toothless dog. Are there challenges? Yes, there are challenges. As in any fight, human rights are fought for, are advocated for. And so there are challenges. And my thinking is we should choose how do we address these challenges in a lawful manner that promotes peace and stability for the whole of Uganda. To answer Bukenya concerning the missing 18 persons, I actually did respond when Agatha asked the question. Many people talk about the missing 18 persons. It's actually the Uganda Human Rights Commission report that detailed those 18 persons. But for some reason, that tends to be forgotten. And I've indicated, I've not updated myself on the status of the investigations, but I know that a few of the complainants said that they did not want to continue to pursue the matter. And I think about 4 or 6, our regional head in Kampala would have the most recent update, continued with their cases, and those cases are ongoing. When the investigations are complete, the matter will be tabled before the tribunal for hearing. At that point, the public will know what the findings of the investigations were. So it's not true to say that we ignored it. Actually, the chairperson on several occasions sought clarification from the National Unity Platform, from members of Parliament of NUP, to say, please give me these details. And she did what the commission did, what they were able to do in the circumstances. And so it's not true to say that the issue of missing persons was not addressed. And like I said when I responded to Agatha, there are details that go into each and every single case. I told you we have 1,100 cases pending hearing and 898 ongoing investigations. That is the caseload that we deal with on a daily basis, pushing to see that those cases are heard and remedy is provided. So, and for the commission, each of those cases is as important as the other. The missing 18 persons might get more publicity, but for us, that woman in Moroto whose son lost his life at the hands of state agencies is just as important as the missing 18 persons.
Okay. By the way, I wanted to ask you, Pauline. They say it takes two to tango. The statement you issued over the weekend was brilliant, and like I said earlier, there was a lot of applause for it. But then it's is that back? Okay, yeah. But then other institutions pulling their weight.
I really would love to leave that to the listeners to answer that question. In the circumstances, my reading of the situation is that it is the Uganda Human Rights Commission that has come out loud and clear, and we've seen the results of what that has done. Yes, is there still more to be done? Definitely, but I think Uganda Human Rights Commission exercised its mandate and stood up to be counted at a time when it was really critical to do so. We also call on the other stakeholders to do the same, because each one of us, with our mandate and as individual citizens, has that responsibility. I thank you, Godwin, and I would request that I'm allowed to move to my next meeting.
Thank you very much. We are grateful that we had you for this discourse. We hope we can have you again some other time
Thank
to
you.
discuss better issues than torture and abduction.
Thank you
Maybe
so
to discuss
much.
AI and how Uganda wants to send a man to space.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to just give members of the audience who've asked for the microphone a chance to say something as we wind up in the next 13 minutes. So, okay, this is looking interesting. Okay, yes, let's start with you, Clinton Miraz. Miraz, if you're speaking, your microphone is muted, and so we're unable to hear you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Toko. I wanted to ask a question, but she has run away because I wanted to ask her about the police truck number 17 in 2020 that ran on the streets of Kampala, shooting innocent Ugandans, even those who are not participating. And up to now, up to date, those men who were on that truck 17, which was actually proven, evidenced by BBC documentary, BBC Eye on Africa. They have never held accountable. But unfortunately, she has run away. But let me speak that Uganda Human Rights Commission is a puppet to them. It serves the master. We all know that. To whatever document they issue on it's just because they see tables are turning around. But I just wanted to let them know they will be held accountable no matter the what. Their excuses of 1,000 cases is not an excuse to give to Ugandans. I've never seen anything Uganda Human Rights Commission is doing, rather than asking budgets, millions of money in the parliament, and they disappear. So unfortunately, she ran away, and I knew maybe she's ran away because of too much questions.
Not
But
really.
we,
To be fair
yeah,
to her, she had asked to leave 30 minutes ago, and I insisted on having her here longer, and she stayed here longer. So I would have wanted her to stay up to the end of the discourse. And
yeah.
that's just to just clear that she didn't run
Okay, thank you.
away in that regard.
As I'm landing is that the Uganda Human Rights Commission and even those who work with them who are here, they should know they are going to be held accountable, whether they like it or not, and individually, because
Great.
we cannot allow this kind of impunitism. Now they are coming to press smart before Ugandans. No. We cannot allow that. But thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you very much. Sarah?
Yeah, I also had a question for her. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get her. Two things. She said the case of the missing 18, apparently, she said they're still pursuing it. for the record, this case was dismissed as of, I think, July or August last year, and it was dismissed on the grounds that there was no enough evidence. It's so contradictory that the court says there's not enough evidence, and yet somebody from human rights tells us they have everything documented. I mean, where is the missing link? Secondly, she said two people or two families actually gave up on pursuing their people. It doesn't matter whether families gave up or not. If I wake up tomorrow and my husband is missing, or my mother, my brother, and I say that I've given up on pursuing for their cases, it does not remove the fact that they deserve the same rights like anybody else. I do not hold those people's rights. I do not take away those rights by saying because I give up on pursuing for their rights, so that means human rights gives up as well because I have said so. That is so lame. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mutabani. That's it. Mutabani Watamale.
Okay. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are, guys. Hope you hearing me, guys.
Please go ahead and make your point.
Yeah,
sir.
this is Tamari Bra, one of the NOPU Leadership School alumni and a leader of the foot soldiers. There is no any commission here in Uganda which is independent. As we still these juntas, when the dictator is still on, we shall never have an independent commission. So we don't expect much, we don't expect anything from these commissions. Look at the Electoral Commission, it works on him. Look at that, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, the one from Madam Wangadia. She just came out recently after too much cries from Ugandans. And after watching photos of the DDO putting our man on Twitter and other social media platforms, that's when she came out. But she wasn't to come if it wasn't by force. So we don't have any commission which will ever work for Ugandans. The only solution we have is only one. Let us stand and fight for ourselves. We need our freedom. Let us fight for our freedom. No one is going to give us freedom. Those commissions will never work.
Okay.
Thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Tamale. And congratulations upon your graduation whenever it happened.
Thank
Womungadi. Mungadi. Okay, Mujuni Eli.
Yes, thank you very much. Ms. Eddie, and a student that is an ardent follower of discussions that are revolving around human rights. But before I can proceed and make my submission, I would want to first confirm if whether I'm being heard loud and clear. Am I?
The practice is that if you're not hearing you, we shall tell you. So just make your point in the interest of time.
In the interest of time, you see, before Madame Pauline, before she left the space or the discussion, the question that I had for her was in relation to the independence of the Human Rights Commission, and of course the answer is not one that is straightforward. But then, however much we are coming out and trying to dismiss the independence, the actions of the Uganda Human Rights Commission, I would want us to be alive to the fact that Uganda is under captivity. And by captivity, I'm coming out and meaning that most of the state infrastructure has been held captive by the military regime. And to come out and want to pinpoint on some of these different commissioners, I do believe they are as well, held captive in one or another. They know what to do, but they cannot do it. And that has left them to act normally in an abnormal situation. And I close with the statement that the made, whereby he was coming out and stating that the military captured the state, but the family captured the military. And given that, I would want us to keep on doing and having civic spaces, because for a government to thrive, for a state to thrive, there must be two things: a visionary leader, as we have in Rwanda, and a visionary citizenship, as we have in Kenya. And in Uganda, we need to start looking at who has the vision. Does the leader have? No. Does the citizenship have? We need to keep on growing on our vision as a citizen and talk about such things. Otherwise, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, and kudos to Agora. A good night.
Thank you very much, Mujuni Eli. Ojambo, go straight to the point. We are really time bad now, and I'm about to end.
All right. Thank you, Toko. My name is called Ronald Ojambo. I subscribe to a nation that is peaceful. But I think, Toko, there's something that we need to change when we are having such an engagement, because Pauline has had to receive quite a number of questions pertaining human rights in this country. But it's unfortunate that the panelists had the opportunity to pose questions to her end, and she was able to answer some of them. But I want to confirm to you that majority of the questions are on the best route.
Joseph Bukenya, unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you so much, the moderator plus my colleagues. I also have a question that, Pauline, I also request that you respond to the issue of the missing 18, the likes of Johnny Bosco Chivalama, because we are seeing that you are responding to only one issue, that is the issue of Eddie Mutwe. Yet all along, we have been receiving, there is evidence that there have been high cases of kidnap, torture. For example, we have the list of the missing 18. Even recently, Prime Minister of Uganda, Nabanja, came out in broad daylight and confirmed that they have Johnny Bosco Chivalama. Even General Museveni on national television, he came up and read the list of the names of those people that are missing, the likes of Damulida John. So why aren't you taking step? You are just taking step just because of the pressure.
Okay. Has he dropped? Okay, Sarah, do you have a question still? Agatha, could it be that I'm not dropped? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
You are on.
Mukanya just went off. Yes. So I think, Pauline, you can respond to those two, and then it will be okay that you can leave. We've really held you longer than you had asked to be held to be here. Pauline, just in case you're speaking, your microphone is muted, and so we can't hear you. It's unfortunate. So let me sort that out with Pauline. But yes, Pauline is here.
Sorry, I'm here. I can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Pauline.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't get the name of the first gentleman who talked about.
It's called Brian.
Brian, about
Yes.
the commission being a toothless dog. First of all, let me just generally say that issues of torture are very emotive, and rightly so. And so I understand the depth of emotion with which some of these questions are raised. And it is my responsibility as a public servant paid by the government of Uganda to answer these questions. Brian said, that, don't we think we are a toothless dog? I think my understanding or reading of the events of the recent past confirmed to me, and I may be biased, that the commission is not a toothless dog, because the fact is that the commission issued that order, and that order was complied with. Eddie Mutwe's location is known, his condition is known. We are having a discourse in a public engagement concerning details of his condition. So maybe I am more of a positivist than others, but I do not call that toothlessness. The tools that we have given to us are within the Constitution. We all appreciate the process that brought the Constitution that we have to us. We cannot act outside of the Constitution. We would be acting as those that we hold accountable. So we are using the powers that we have, and actually, in my view, judiciously using them to ensure that there is justice, there is rule of law, that where there are violations, somebody is held accountable and there is an effective remedy given to that person. So in my view, I would not say that we are a toothless dog. Are there challenges? Yes, there are challenges. As in any fight, human rights are fought for, are advocated for. And so there are challenges. And my thinking is we should choose how do we address these challenges in a lawful manner that promotes peace and stability for the whole of Uganda. To answer Bukenya concerning the missing 18 persons, I actually did respond when Agatha asked the question. Many people talk about the missing 18 persons. It's actually the Uganda Human Rights Commission report that detailed those 18 persons. But for some reason, that tends to be forgotten. And I've indicated, I've not updated myself on the status.
nga ebiwundu byonna kansomagerani bwe yatunyonyodde twalibadde tulowooza kyekisembayo naye ate bwe twogedde ku edi yatubuliddeko newankubadde munafu tasobola kwogera bulungi nakutotola byonna byamutuusibwako ne bamutuusako buli kikolobero kyemmanyi. Edi Mutwe bamu waterboardinga. Waterboarding is when they tie you and they start pouring water in your face and mouth to create an effect of drowning. Edi Mutwe was waterboarded. Bamu kubisa amasanyalaze, bamutuuzanga mu kitaba we bamukubira omutudde omusaayi n'amazzi ne basaamu waya z'amasanyalaze ne bamukubisa amasanyalaze mu nkwawa ne mu busajja. Ekisingira ddala Edi Mutwe atutegeezezza nti muhoozi yennyini ku lunaku olwokusatu muhoozi yennyini yajja ng'ayambadde kyepeze zonna najja n'amutulugunya ye kennyini n'amubuuza ebibuuzo nga bamukuba waali nga bamutulugunya waali. Kibi nnyo 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 naye kye twosaba bannansi bonna bonna kye baba babanja kwe kulaba nti Edi ayimbulwa atwalibwe mu ddwaliro afune obujjanjabi. Yenayina ajjudde mabwa, emikono gino bamusiba empingo ne ziyingira mu nnyama ne zibulira mu nnyama era kati ajjudde ebiwundu. Tumanyi nti bamukumidde mukomera ensi ereme kulaba mbeera gy'alimu kati newankubadde wayiseewo akaseera bino okuba we byaliwo naye amabwa gakyali mabisi n'obulumi bukyali buli wamu. Akankana tanaba ku stabilizinga mu mubiri ne mu bwongo. So teyebaka ategeeza teyebaka ne banne bategeezezza abagendayo mu ddwaliro mulaba kubanga ali mu ddwaliro lyakomera. Ebigere byonna baabikuba kuno bukongukule ne bugwa munda. Ali mu mbeera embi ennyo ennyo ennyo. Tubasaba ng'oggyeko okusabira Edi Mutwe mumusabire nnyo 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 naye ate mubanje mulabe nga muganda waffe obulamu bwe butaasibwa kubanga singa abatafunye bujjanjabi mu kiseera ekyamangu ennyo simanyi mbeera ki gy'anaabeeramu. Ebyo nkakasa bw'anaaba asobodde ajja bibanyonyola katonda bw'anabakkiriza n'akomawo nga mulamu naye mu kumutulugunya kyatugambye nti muhoozi bwe yajja ku lunaku olwokusatu n'amubikkulako n'amulaba ne bagasimbagana n'amubuuza amagala kati edi mutwe n'agamba tebanabagamba awo batandikira ebirala edi ndowooza n'abibanyonyola kyensinga okwagala okubasaba nti buli omu akole kyasobola okulaba nga muganda waffe tafiira mu kkomera kuba singa abatafunye bujjanjabi bibeera likirivu.